We discussed the best fights of the Winx Club franchise, so now it only makes sense we dunk on the worst ones. And oh girl, we have a lot of material to work with. Most of these are from the more recent seasons, of course, but there are a few duds from season 3 onward. I don't know what happened after the first season, but the combat just hasn't captured the same charm it once possessed. Much like a similar female-led show. Well, at least Winx Club can say it was once damn good. Before we begin, I would like to remind y'all that you can keep up to date with my progress on the Season 6 rewrite through my community tab posts and also following me over on Instagram for my latest Blender creations. And if you want to support myself on the channel so I can take more time working on videos for y'all, then you can pledge your support over on Patreon and or check out my urban fantasy novel Disinheritance from the Ashes on Amazon and wherever else books are sold. Now without further ado, let the bitching begin. I don't dislike the season 4 finale as much as everybody else seems to, as discussed in my video ranking the season finales, link in description, please and thank you. But that said, the final clash with the Wizards of the Black Circle is easily the worst part. It's actually pretty engaging at first, with Nebula and Aisha going after Ogron, Gantlos, and Anakin for revenge, only to find themselves overpowered when the Wizards use their surroundings to their advantage. Oh look! Ogron, hiding like the fucking coward he is. What was that Farragonda said? Tyrants like Valtor or Ogron become ferocious when cornered? The problems start the moment the Winx arrive. From that point, it becomes generic, let's hold hands and fight evil, aka everything wrong with modern convergence magic. Again, check out my video about the best convergence spells. After all the terrible thing the Wizards have done, having them encapsulated in ice by friendship beams seems so underwhelming. There's no actual conflict between the Winx and their enemies. Bloom and Roxy don't get a moment to confront Ogron directly, it's just so boring. Honestly, it would have been better to wrap up this fight before the final episode, not only to give the girls more time to wrap up their personal subplots, but also to give this fight more time to shine and give the Wizards a proper send-off. I've never been a fan of this fight. Overall, I actually really love this episode with how much of Linfea we get to see. It's a beautiful world, and I love all the world building touches, with the cities up in the trees, the dangerous winds making travel difficult, an excuse to stay on the Enchantix wings, and the interesting story behind the destruction of Lulia and the Weeping Willow. The idea of the reverse flowing waterfall is absolutely genius. If only they put as much effort into that fight between the Winx and the Tricks. At this point, you would expect the Winx to be able to hold their own against the Witches, especially given the Tricks don't really have a power boost of their own aside from Stormy's recently strengthened lightning, but is it really all that impressive? And it doesn't even work as an ambush given the Winx have plenty of heads up to take on the Tricks. My biggest gripes though are Bloom, Musa, and Aisha. First of all, Aisha has just disappeared. She doesn't transform and she's not in the fight at all until Flora gets her Enchantix. Did she just fuck off? 4Kids at least attempted to include her, but that begins and ends with her throwing an attack we don't see the results of. And Musa is completely helpless, getting knocked back by Stormy not once, but twice, and then tied up by Darcy. So much for letting her show off her new Enchantix powers. And Bloom? What are you even doing? Miss Almighty Dragonflame gets pinned to the wall by Icy so easily, it's actually comical. The Winx are absolutely helpless just to put them in a situation where Darcy can try to kill the Black Willow, leading to Flora getting her Enchantix. Still, there could have been a way to reach that without making the Winx look completely feeble. It is no secret that Season 5's fight choreography is lacking, but there's something so frustrating about this one in particular that made it land this list. On top of the usual generic energy blasts, we get long reaction shots and some of the slowest movement imaginable. Yes, they're underwater, but this is also fiction. We're allowed to bend the rules of reality for the sake of keeping people entertained. May I refer you to that one episode of Season 3 where they were underwater and kicked absolute fucking ass? And this is one of the few times they go the route of slow underwater combat, so I have no idea what's happening. I think what really bothers me in this fight is how helpless Icy and Tritanus are. It makes it impossible to take them seriously as our main villains when the Winx are so easily able to trounce them, even when they're without the mutants to serve as their shields. If you remember that joke, you deserve a veteran's discount. Oh, that abridged series was wild. And problematic, as most abridged series are. But seriously, I've never liked this fight. I don't know why, but it really feels like Enchantix got nerfed more than a few times. Even in Season 3. You could argue the Winx are still getting used to the form, but that should have been acknowledged within the show instead of making us do the heavy lifting to make excuses for the writers. Wow, Ruby has taught me a lot, wow. At the very least, this one's over with quickly. The Winx face the convicts, each one of them get a moment to attack or defend, and then they fall off a cliff. Not sure what Stella's move was supposed to do, nor how they fall when, again, they all have wings. But sure, we need a cliffhanger. So what better than falling off a literal cliff? God, Enchantix deserved better. More of the super slow combat with generic energy blasts. There's not much to say here because there just isn't much going on. The Winx and Trix are really just trying to buy the writers time to pad out the episode to the 24-minute runtime. And we have an arbitrary power booster for the Trix through their dark necklaces, which... sure, I don't care at this point. I'm especially bitter that Nebula and Stormy didn't get a proper one-on-one duel. They both have electricity and storm powers. I want my thunder off, damn it. Bloom and Selena's encounter isn't even all that interesting. We get the infamous Eldora was lame line, and it's just so hollow. There's no emotion in the encounter between the former friends, no real conflict beyond Selena being manipulated by generic bad guy number 5, no tension between these characters. You don't even get Selena being envious of Bloom's innate magical abilities, or a feeling of abandonment. It's just so dull. And on top of that, the Winx gain mythics because Bloom broke Icy's necklace. Wow, I am so impressed. What should have been a compelling mid-season finale turned out so lackluster and shallow, which is fitting for Season 6, admittedly. Though I do like Icy's Icicle Shredder. That's it, that's the only positive I've got. One of the most disappointing fights or final battles imaginable. I'm honestly impressed that the Winx fighting an army of generic mutants was more compelling than the fight with the big bad. Again, as I mentioned in my video on the finales, Aisha should have been the one to fight and defeat Tritanus, not Bloom. This villain is personal to Aisha. It's her cousin, who's tormented and mutated their entire family, and is now endangering her homeworld and parents directly. But sure, let Bloom fight the fish stick man and ensure I have no investment in this whatsoever. Great idea, guys. And on top of that, we get the return of that accursedly slow underwater combat, especially with Nereus swings. If you've seen Lisa Feverell's fantastic video on Season 5, you'll remember her pointing out the lackluster choreography, especially Nereus' pathetic sword swings. But seriously, her videos are great, go check them out. The only highlight I can think of is Stormy and Darcy coming to Icy's rescue. Oh, I said them out of order, that's gonna bother me now. Because it's the only time I ever cared about the Trix this season. And then they get yeeted into oblivion. Well, metaphorical oblivion, not the literal oblivion that Tritanus gets sent to. God, how many extra-dimensional hell prisons do we even have at this point? I always forget this fight whenever I rewatch this season, and with good reason. My brain is trying to protect me from the suck. Seriously, no form has had a worse debut than Mythics. Weirdly, we get the slow underwater combat above water, with the Winx floating around waiting for the Trix to attack them. They're so incredibly helpless when they're simultaneously bragging about how much stronger they are with their new Mythics powers. Seriously, Stella and Aisha mention it right as Stormy yeets them around with a generic ugly twister. The animation is slow and stiff, there's no weight to any of the girls' actions. I'm just so bored. Honestly, it feels like Mythics weakens them more than anything else. Like the girls can't do as much as they usually can because they're restricted by their toyetic wands. Oh, wouldn't that be a twist? My only positive note is Flora's natural camouflage. But even that gets ruined as Musa just stands there waiting for Stormy to shoot her out of the sky. God, Season 6 really was not kind to Musa. So many memes today. Do I even need to explain this one? The Winx, who have saved the entire magical universe several times at this point, and now wield the power of the almighty Dragonflame that created the magical universe, are defeated by Of all things, a bird.
I'm losing to a bird!
This is just fucking absolutely ridiculous. The choreography is slow and uninventive, and it's not compelling in the slightest. But I think my biggest issue is the lack of narrative tension. This bird literally swoops in out of the blue and kidnaps the Digmole. It's the definition of protagonists waiting around for the conflict to show up. They don't even know this bird is Kalshara the Shapeshifter. For all they know, it's some random hawk. Or whatever else she turned into. I don't fucking know birds. So yeah, this is trash. But at least it's a good indicator for season 7's quality. Bad, underwhelming, and pointless, leaving you confused as to what the hell that nonsense even was. And in the most boring way imaginable. And the most underwhelming quasi-final battle goes to one of the most underwhelming villains of the franchise. What a shock.
Finally! Freedom is mine! Boo! You stink!
Seriously, the fact that the big bad of season 6 gets defeated by being locked away in a box is just so underwhelming. Like, I get it, he's not meant to be the big focus like Selena and the Tricks, but there's a way to give him a proper send-off. And it ain't this. It ain't this mess. I think what bothers me most is that the writers couldn't come up with another way for Ashron to be defeated, so they just had Eldora literally hand this convenient artifact over to the Winx in the same episode it's used. And when I say dollar store Agador box, I mean it. Because the Infinity box is just the Agador box without any of the actual relevance. At least the Agador box had proper build-up, had a whole heist for Valtor to get his hands on it, and served the purpose of storing all the spells he had stolen from the magical universe. And also the Agador box actually looked good. And the fight with Ashron itself? Boring. More generic energy beams, more weird underwater-like motion when we're nowhere near water. Thanks, I hate it. Bloom, take your flames of bravery elsewhere. I've never enjoyed Bloom's one-on-one duel with Nebula. That's probably gonna get me crucified, but it's just the truth. It's slow, Bloom is far weaker than she usually is for the sake of keeping the fight going, and there's a surprising number of times where a character just stands there and lets themselves get hit, and then acts like the fight is over for them.
Don't worry, Roxy. I know what I'm doing.
Moments later.
Electric storm!
The only draw for me is Nebula's resolve to get revenge as she talks about her feelings driving her to fight. I just wish Bloom spoke on her experience with wanting revenge against Valtor, or her feelings of losing her world to the ancestral witches. Show how much she has grown, damn it, instead of having her act flawless all the time. Can you imagine the emotions of Bloom leveling with Nebula like, I've been where you've been, and it doesn't lead anywhere good. Also, not a big fan of that fight outside the fruity music bar between the Winx and the Black Circle. The first one, like in 4. Yeah, episode 4. Again, Aisha just vanishes, and it's over right as you realize it started. Too easy. But seriously, Enchantix got nerfed. And that fight with the dream monster outside Pixie Village... it's not terrible, but it's very boring. Well, season 4 really doesn't hold up as well as I thought. Also, most of the fights from season 5 onward just automatically land in here. But let's just be real. Oh, I did forget to mention a few of the bests. Are we doing this here? Yes, we're doing this. This is very unscripted, so. Okay, so Farragonda versus Valtor, when Althea was getting attacked. That was a whole moment. Farragonda is just so kick-ass, and she's like... Did you just call me old? Yes, I am old, but I will also fucking land a tree on your face!
I may be old, but I can still defend myself!
Oh, so beautiful. Also, that fight in Rockaluce Gorge. I don't know where the fuck this gorge is supposed to be, but it was actually surprisingly kick-ass. The best moment obviously being when Aisha just grabs Icy with her Mystic Wrap and then yeets her into a cliff.
Mystic Wrap!
It's like a little taste of the season 1 violence. Am I okay? Anyway, on to number 1 worst fight. You're probably wondering how a non-fight like this wound up being at the top of the list. And that's exactly why. It's a non-fight. They really failed to have a compelling conflict between Bloom and Selena, which is so frustrating because that should be the centerpiece of season 6. Instead, we get more generic energy blasts before we're then forced to watch the other Winx get beaten by unimportant fairies and Aisha saving the pixies. Nah, it's not like I wanted to see Bloom actually challenged for once by a childhood friend who could possibly, drag her for filth. Oh, that fight could have been everything, and it wasn't. It wasn't anything. Like, seriously, the connection between Bloom and Selena is supposed to be, like, the core of season 6, and it's so non-existent. Like, it's so boring. Anyhow, if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more content like this from me, then be sure to subscribe and ring that bell for notifications because YouTube hates creators. Also, please consider, if you're willing and able, pledging your support for myself and the channel over on Patreon, and checking out my urban fantasy novel, Disanervis from the Ashes, in the links below. I'm Unicorn of War, and there is no greater shit show than losing to a bird.